Top 10 videos are usually a cesspool for bad comments and really bad takes. You upload your opinion on the internet and usually it gets downvoted and destroyed in the comment section just because people disagree with you. My last video kind of proved this whole thing wrong. I definitely have one of the most well-mannered, polite and honest comment sections in the whole of YouTube. And yes, I don't have a large audience and I don't have a gigantic community, and maybe that's the reason why everyone was so polite. I have the advantage of having a bunch of people who are just nice people telling me about their opinion after I gave my opinion on my favorite Zelda games of all time. People could have easily have taken the other route, telling me that I'm wrong for having this opinion, telling me that the games that I like are bad. But in this case, we all just had a big discussion about why we love Zelda and why we love video games in general. Because I think that's the truth. We all just love video games. And I'm glad that my comment section and my Discord and my Twitter and all of my channel has become a place where people can honestly just love video games without having to worry about big, gigantic arguments and long-winded discussions about why someone is right or wrong. It's all just one place where we can all just love video games together.
Smash Brothers? What? What?
And yeah, this sounds cheesy, and in some cases people are going to think it's pandering, and if it does sound like that, then there's nothing much I can do. I'm extremely proud of the community that I've cultivated here, and I am extremely happy to bring you this next part of the video. This is my favorite Zelda games of all time, the top 5. At number 5 is The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, the version that I played. This game to me is one of the most gorgeous games that I've ever played in my life. Not just in the Zelda series, I think this game really does have an amazing art style. It's very easy to look back at the flack that this game got originally when it came out and say that's the starting point, that's where this game was going, that's only what this game had going for it at the time. But I feel like as time has gone on, it's been like a rolling stone or a rolling piece of snow, gathering more speed and more supporters as it's going along. And this game has become one of the favorites of the Zelda community. And I can definitely see why. This is the game that really solidified my love for this series. I went from being a person that was like, this is a really enjoyable game series and I want to continue playing these games, to I need to play this game series more. This franchise needs to be a part of my life, and it was this game that made me want to do that, make it a part of my life. This game is just fun from start to finish. Every single aspect of it, down to the combat, to the worlds you explore. There's not a moment in this game that I ever felt bored or I ever felt like I wanted to put the controller down. It is just fun, 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 and the cartoony aspect of it really adds to that. Toon Link may be very cartoonish and some people might see it as not being able to take it seriously, but I think Toon Link is one of the most expressive links out of the whole franchise on a whole. Even the side characters look amazing to me, because while this game is, yes, a very cartoonish style, it fits the entire world and the entire world is consistent, and to me that is all that matters. This game has my second favorite combat system of any single Zelda game. And adding to that, every single dungeon you visit to use that combat in is amazing. They're beautifully themed, and every single one you go to makes you want to go to the next straight away, because you know for a fact something amazing is waiting for you. The ocean may be vast and in some cases empty, but that is what makes this game even more amazing to me. Visiting an island or a dungeon or any single place you go to that's not on the ocean is a treat, because you know how big the ocean is, and this is your chance to explore something new. There is different cultures on each island, there's a different ecosystem, there's different economies on different islands, and all of them add to the game in their own special, amazing way. Wind Waker really follows that line between comedy and drama, and I think it walks the line very well, not straying into either side too much as to ruin the themes of the game. Everything just fits perfectly for me, and I love this game dearly. And this may sound extremely cheesy, but it's one of those games that when you boot it up, you can feel it, you can almost smell it. It is so vibrant and beautiful, and everything is so immersive because it's so consistent. It's cartoony, but it feels like you were in that world. I love The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and I couldn't love it any more than I even do now, and I'm so glad that I was able to get a chance to play this game, and I thank, honestly, the Wii U HD version for this. This is a game that came out on the GameCube, and then came out on the Wii U, and still looks prettier than most games that come out today, which to me is kind of a proving point to the fact that you can have as much resolution, you can have as high as texture quality as you want, but if it doesn't have a good art style, it's still not as pretty as The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. At number 4, it's The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, a game that I played for the first time this year and was extremely worried that it was not going to hold up in the end. But believe it or not, this game came out a year before I was born and then was remastered a couple of years later. This game holds up extremely well. The strength of this game does not come from maybe its visual style, even though it's very pretty. I think it comes more from the weird story and the amazing combat that is in this game. It is dangerous, it is fast-paced, and if you make a wrong decision, it is your fault and you are going to die. Enemies in this game, no matter how big or small, can take chunks out of your life, and that made this game the hardest game in the Zelda series, but there is a little thing to that. No matter how many times I died, no matter how many times the game told me, hey, you kinda suck at this, I kept coming back for more and more and more because it was so fun to die in this game, and that is a weird thing to say, but dying in Link's Awakening was one of the most special feelings I've ever had in a Zelda game. And I know that sounds weird, but trust me, I'm not going to spoil anything because I know a lot of people are probably going to be playing the game for the first time this year, but it is a great feeling. The weird kind of breadcrumb-like story in this game keeps you going through the entire journey. They give you little tidbits and little pieces of information on weird little side stories and weird little characters that you meet that kind of give you hints to the secret of this world. When I found out the twist in this game, again, not going to spoil it, I was stunned. I was amazed. This game that came out in 1993 was able to shock me still in 2019. And that is why I love video games. And I think Link's Awakening is kind of one of those big reasons why I love video games. That no matter how many years ago the game came out, if it holds up and it still has an amazing story and amazing combat, it does not matter what year it came out, because it can still be an amazing game. I think a lot of times we hear about those discussions. People talking about what the greatest games of all time are, and in most cases people will say, oh well, this game, but it doesn't really hold up now, but it's still an amazing game. To me, the most amazing games of all time that I can think of that are still my favorite games today are games that no matter what era they are in, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, will still be able to be played and had fun in. And this is one of those games. An amazingly realized, beautiful world that you can go through, a crazy story that gets crazier and crazier as you're going through it, and I can honestly not wait to play through it again with the remake this year and see what has changed, what has stayed the same, and just see how more beautiful this game can get. The Link's Awakening dungeons are also very difficult, but in some cases they have some of the best boss designs, some of the best boss puzzles, and just in general some of the best puzzles I've ever seen ever in any video game, not just in Zelda. It is fantastic going through these dungeons and I love exploring them. It's an emotional story that I had the pleasure of dying in. At number 3, it's The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks, another game that I only played recently, but another game that I feel like holds up very well. You might be saying, why did Phantom Hourglass get put so much lower because of the stylus and Spirit Tracks is put so much higher? There's a few things about that. I put Phantom Hourglass lower on the list because the stylus was a bit cumbersome to me, but a lot of other things in the game didn't overcome the stylus aspect to me as well. But with Spirit Tracks, the story is so good to me, and the world is so amazing, and the characters are so astounding that the stylus became a non-issue as the game was going on. Again, nothing against Phantom Hourglass, I love that game with all my heart, but Spirit Tracks is just the better of the two for me. This game is all about trains, and if you don't like trains, you're probably not going to like this game very much. You're not on foot very often. The majority of this game, I would say, would be going through dungeons, but every other part of this game, you were on a train traveling from place to place to place. And you start to really respect train tracks. It's kind of a weird feeling in a Zelda game to not really respect a horse or to respect a boat, but to honestly respect how awesome your train is as you're upgrading it, changing it, and in some cases, how you are in danger of it being destroyed by other trains on the tracks, or as I like to call them, chugga chugga evil choo-choos. This game came out on the DS, but still, it has some of the best secrets of any video game I've seen, and also has some of the best worlds you can visit. This game had the benefit of being able to mirror a lot of the worlds you saw in Phantom Hourglass, but then exploring them that little bit more to make them more interesting and easier to explore and to understand. This game has some of my favorite character designs ever, and in other games, adding wheels to some characters and making some characters half train parts, half human would be silly, but they commit to it so much in this game that it makes it so believable that it's just a part of the world and makes it that much more fun to see these characters. At first, it was, that is so weird. There is a character with train wheels attached to them, and then after a while it was like, that's just another character in this world that I have grown to respect and care for. And that is something that I feel like is a credit to this beautiful video game. It would be a crime to go this whole part of the video without mentioning my favorite part of this whole video game, and that is Princess Zelda. Princess Zelda is probably at her best here, showing some of the most personality I've ever seen her show. While in other games she has an amazing character, and I love her dearly, maybe in every single Zelda game I've ever played, but in this she is manic, she is funny, she is witty, and in a lot of ways she is different from any other Zelda we've seen before. And traveling along with Zelda, it was a special feeling. Because in most games, you don't see Zelda for the entire game. You're constantly trying to meet up with Zelda, or at least try to save her. In this game, she is very much the crux of it. Without Zelda, you would not be able to do anything in this game, or at least get past some of the most difficult parts. I absolutely adore Princess Zelda in this game. From the moment that you meet her to the last few heartbreaking moments of this game, she is a treat to be around and one of the most realized and amazing characters that I have seen in any Zelda game. And that's just the truth. This game has some of the most amazing dungeons and creative boss battles that you could ever see. There are some aspects of the game that I really don't like getting into, and that is the mic system where you have to play music through blowing on the Wii U gamepad. Now, a lot of people told me, the reason why I'm not putting it down lower on this list is because a lot of people told me, very rightfully so, that the mic on the Wii U is not as good as the DS's one, and that is probably 110% true. But that little 10-minute point where I was struggling to make music on the Wii U gamepad did not detriment this game whatsoever. It is a fantastic game with so much more to offer, and really, if you haven't played this game or if you skipped this game, I really think that you should give it a chance in some way, shape, or form.
Open your eyes.
At number 2, it's The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. This to me is the greatest open world game ever made. I've been challenged on that opinion. I've been told I'm an idiot. But even after all of that, I will still sit here and say that it is the greatest open world game I have ever played. This game usually tops a lot of people's lists, and on any other day it maybe could be at the top of my list. But in this sense, there is one game that is just slightly better for me. Breath of the Wild is not the most dense game. You're not going to find towns every few minutes. You're not going to find people every few seconds on the roads that you travel in this game. You're not even going to find, in some cases, food as you're traveling through some of the areas in this game. This game is very much a game about isolation and the love of finding people on your isolated route. I could talk for days about how traveling through this world, feeling like you're alone, and then finally seeing someone just traveling, walking in the distance, and running to them like it's the most exciting thing in the world, and just saying hello. And maybe they have not much to say, maybe they have the whole world to talk about. But it's still one of my favorite things in this video game. This game to me is one of the most beautiful games ever made. It is vast and gorgeous, and I love traveling through it at any point. I love the broken weapon system in this game, and I know a lot of people hate it, but to me it makes every single combat situation count more. The fact that your weapon could break at any moment, and you have to switch to a different weapon, made all of the situations I got into in this game that little bit more scary. At the start of this game, I picked up a woodcutter axe, and I thought to myself, fuck yeah, I'm going to wreck people with this woodcutter axe. And you realize you're doing barely any damage. You look out into this small lake, this small bed filled with water, and you see in the middle of it, there is a sword sticking out of this little pedestal. You take it out, and it is a rusted sword. Again, not very good, but you pick up this rusted sword and it feels amazing. What other games can you pick up a rusted sword and it feels great? This is, in essence, a survival game. And picking up food throughout the game to survive, making different dinners to survive, and collecting all these weapons really felt great. Because as you progress through the game, and towards the end of the game, I had so many weapons in my inventory that yes, it was less scary now to go through the world, but that felt awesome. It felt awesome that I'd earned all of these slots, that I've earned all of these weapons, and these are my weapons, not the weapons that were assigned to me by the video game developers. My weapons that I chose to put in my inventory, and I felt so great after that going through the world. It went from a really scary world to a world that honestly I could just travel around in and have fun in. The climbing system in this game is something that everyone should just steal. Please, steal this system. Because I don't know who came up with it, but the idea that you can just climb everything, it doesn't make any sense, right? It does not make one lick of sense, but the idea that you can climb anything is so much fun that I would not give a crap with how much sense it made. It does not matter how much sense it makes to be able to climb up the side of a house without anything to grip onto. It does not make any sense to be able to climb up the side of a steep mountain with nothing to put your foot on as you're climbing up. But it is fun, and it feels great, and it gives you a reason to upgrade your stamina system. You get almost to the top of a mountain and your stamina system runs out, and you say to yourself, I'm coming back here when I find more stamina. And that's such an invigorating feeling. The idea that you almost got there, and you know that you could get there next time, and you come back later on and you climb that exact same wall or the exact same mountain, and you finally get up to the top and you look out on this vast world, and while it's not that big of a reward for being able to climb up this, you don't find much. You might only find some little food or some frozen flowers. You look out at this world and you know that's what you earned, this amazing view. And I may sound pretentious right now, but the views in this game are gorgeous. This game is gorgeous. Everything in this game is beautiful, and I would say that in terms of the Zelda series, it is probably my favorite looking Zelda game out of every single Zelda game in the series. And that's saying a lot, because the Zelda games can be really freaking pretty. The shrines in this game, while some of them may seem tedious, and some of them are very tedious, going from shrine to shrine really kind of broke up the gameplay for me. Going through this empty world and meeting a bunch of people and collecting a bunch of stuff was great, but then going into a shrine and doing a puzzle for a bit, then coming back out and getting back to exploring was always fun. And when you hear that beep, when you hear that little beep that you know there's a shrine nearby, your heart kind of like perks up, your ears perk up, your eyes open, and you're like, okay, I gotta find this shrine, I have to find this shrine. And that is what an open world is all about to me. It's not about having a bunch of markers on a map where you have to go to this place, go to that place, go to this place. It's about telling people, go. Go and explore this world. And that is what Breath of the Wild does the best. Go and explore. It literally pats you on the arse and says, have fun. And that's what you do. After the tutorial part is done, you go out into this world and just go. There are still parts of this game that I have not explored. There are still things that I have not done. And there's still things that I have yet to do. And I probably should start doing them before Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. And how good of a feeling is that? Knowing that even after around 70 hours of playing this game, there are still things I have not done. The story is very sparse. And in a lot of ways, some people might say it's not there. If you choose not to do any of the memories, it's definitely not there. But I kind of like the memory system a whole lot. To me, letting people just explore and telling them to go, and then you choosing whether you want more story, is always a great decision. There was a moment toward the end of the game when people told me, there's a diary in Zelda's room. Please go and read it. And I was going to skip by it, not read it whatsoever. I went back and you find out so much information about Zelda's character, and you just would not have found that out if you skip past it. And speaking of skipping, if you want to in this game, you can skip past everything and go straight to the final boss. And that, to me, again, is what open world games should be. Freedom. Why am I playing this open world game if there's things that are blocked off completely? The random encounters you encounter in this game, the bosses in the overworld, the bosses even in the dungeons, and the villages that you visit are all contributors to this beautiful, amazing 10 out of 10 game, and I cannot stress that enough. For me, it is a 10 out of 10 game. At number 1 is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. This game to me is the most emotionally connected I've ever felt to a Zelda game. And that's no word of a lie. I think about this game once per day and it sends chills over my body and honestly gets a very emotional frog in my throat, like I'm about to cry every time I think of the ending to this game. I enjoyed this game from start to finish. To me, motion controls are some of the most fun thing you can do in video games. When I originally got my Nintendo Wii, I loved it. There was not one part of it that was cumbersome. My mother got me when she got me a Wii, the Wii Classic controller, but even though it's still my favorite controller ever made, I don't even use it that often when it comes to games that you can switch from motion control to the classic controller. I never really felt like the motion control in Skyward Sword was bad, or even hard to control. I always felt every sword slash, and I always felt every jab, and I always felt like I was right there in the combat. It was fun. It's always fun to me, and moving around in this world was always fun. But I think putting everything aside, putting aside how I love these dungeons, how every single puzzle in these dungeons are not too difficult, they're just right. Putting aside how every single person you meet in this game has character growth and feels like they're becoming a better person throughout the game as you're going along. Putting aside the relationships that are formed and the changes that happen in those relationships as the game goes on. Putting aside all those amazing things, even though you probably shouldn't, there is one thing that makes this game so special to me. And it's probably going to be controversial, but it is Fi. Fi to me is my favorite companion in any single Zelda game. Mostly because she kind of transcended from a companion to a fully blown character to me. The relationship between Link and Fi was told to me for years that there's nothing there, that there's no emotion there, that Fi is just an emotionless creature that annoys you all the time. I was told for years that Fi was one of the most annoying characters ever, and to some people she can be, and that's not a problem whatsoever. If you're annoyed by Fi, that's valid. That's 100% valid. But for me, personally, she was a great impact on this video game. I think this game has the best story of all Zelda games. I also think the dialogue is at its peak here. I think it is the best written dialogue of any Zelda game I've ever played. And for me personally, the relationship between Link and Fi is emotional as you see her grow into a fully formed new character as the game is going along. Starting off as a very much an emotional creature, just helping Link with the basic instructions, and eventually getting a little more sassy, getting a little bit more human, until she finally tells you, in the end, that she is feeling something that she cannot identify. Gratefulness, happiness. Thank you, Master Link. Those words will always resonate in my heart. Always. And every time I think of them, every time I go back and watch that old scene, and there is a very often a time every month when I try to go back and watch that scene just to see if I still feel the same way, and every single time it makes my voice very shaky. It makes me feel very strange because I love that moment in this game, and I love the relationship between Fi and Link. Zelda in this game is amazing too. I don't want to sell her short. The relationship between Link and Zelda to me is also at a peak in this game, because while other games it's kind of hinted at, I think very much, and openly so, this is at a time when it was a love story. You can tell it's a love story. From the very beginning, you are friends with Zelda, and there is something there. You can tell she likes him and he likes her, and the constant getting to every single end of a dungeon, seeing her there, and seeing her leave is always emotional. Because you know, while you yourself want to talk to Zelda, you know, just seeing Link's eyes, how much he wants to talk to her as well. I don't think I need to say much more about The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. This game to me is tied to me forever and is in my top 10 favorite games of all time, without a shadow of a doubt. And here's the thing, if you hate this game, and there are many people that do, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But that doesn't make the game bad. Just like me hating a game you like doesn't make it bad. It's just a different opinion, man. And to me, it goes beyond that. I just feel emotionally linked to this game. In the cheesiest way possible, I left a part of myself in that game. So that concludes my top 5 list of my favorite Zelda games of all time. Now, I hope you understand why I was kind of getting a bit emotional with some of those games. I know it might sound cheesy, but to quickly explain, to me, video game characters are just as real people. Now that sounds delusional, but I know for a fact I can't talk to video game characters. I know for a fact they're not really people I know. I know this. I'm not an idiot. I'm not delusional. But these characters are able to impact our lives more than most real people can. And it's not just Zelda. How many people feel tied to Luke Skywalker? How many people feel emotionally connected to Gandalf in Lord of the Rings? And for me personally, the shows I watch as well, the games I play, the movies I see, there's plenty of characters that I love so dearly and have impacted my life and in some cases have changed my life that I'm very grateful for. Again, it's cheesy as hell, and if you don't believe that and it doesn't change for you and they don't have that effect on you, that's fine. But for me, I love video games, and I love stories, and I love how people tell stories. And across this entire Zelda list, I really feel like they're some of the most amazing stories I've ever got to play.